So, good evening, everybody, and once more, thank you for joining in. This is already the third session we are having in the How to Startup course, and today we are going to be covering two quite big and very, very important topics. One is marketing, and the other one is pitching. I guess you probably already know what marketing is. For some of you who haven't been in the startup field or are just entering in, then you might not know what a pitch is. But our today's lecture is going to tell you all about that. But first, I wanted to just touch upon the question of homework. I wanted to remind you that the previous week's assignment, you still have until this Wednesday, until 5 o'clock this Wednesday, to hand them in. As I wrote on Slack, please just send a direct message to me with the completed file. So looking forward to receiving those. As we had to reschedule last week's session, the issue kind of arises that you have to hand in the previous homework until Wednesday this week, but today you will already receive the next assignment, and that one you will have to hand in by next Monday. So maybe you will have a bit less time to complete it, but I hope you will manage in time. And of course, I'm not going to be too angry if you don't make it in time. Just let me know beforehand that you won't be able to manage to hand it in by this Wednesday. It's okay to be 1 or 2 days late, but just let me know. And of course, it's better if you do it on time. I will be grateful for that. But yeah, one thing I wanted to talk about is also on Wednesday, we are having a progress check-in call. It's going to be the halfway point of this program. And during the check-in call, I do want to hear feedback from you. There will be several questions I will prepare and send out on Slack that I will expect each team to answer regarding this course and how you've been doing here. And like I said, I also want feedback from you. I want to hear if there are any improvements you might like to have here. Also, how's the teamwork going? And I will tell you about what's down the road, what's going to happen in the last couple of sessions we are having, and what more are we going to be having during this course. And there is also going to be a presentation from the Investment and Development Agency of Latvia. So it is mandatory for at least one participant from each team to participate in this call, because I would really like to hear how you are doing, how each team is doing. But enough about that. Regarding this lecture, as always, if you can, please turn on your camera. We always love seeing who is here, who's not. It is completely understandable if you cannot turn on your camera. It happens. But if you can, please do. And regarding questions, feel free to either write them in the chat or raise your virtual hand, and we will give you the floor to ask them verbally, and so that everybody can hear you. And as I said before, we are having two major topics that are going to get covered tonight, and thus we also have two speakers, two mentors today. And what I wanted to mention, which is going to be slightly different from the other sessions, is that we are going to have two Q&A sessions. Basically, after the first topic, we are going to have a quick 10-minute Q&A session, and after the second. So prepare your questions and be ready to ask them right after each, let's say, presentation or each talk. And the first, we will begin with marketing and regarding websites and marketing and all the tricks of that. And for that, I would love to welcome Jan Spoids, co-founder of AirDog and partner and SVP of Global Partnerships at SonarWorks. Janis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the intro and good words. So thank you for having me here today. It's really nice to digitally meet you. And first of all, really much respect to you, since you are taking a challenge to learn something more and possibly build something new. And that's definitely not an easy path, but that's a great path. It's really incredible. So really much respect, and hopefully things work out well for your ideas, for your teams. So we'll have about half an hour or maybe 35 or 40 minutes presentation. Will be like 3 parts: intro, whom am I, why do I talk anything about marketing? Second theme will be marketing, and third theme will be, if we have some time, some bonus slides, some experience learnings from building your own company. So let's see how do things go. And yeah, please, if you have questions, write them, ask them in Zen. We'll be happy to address. Yep. And so let me share the slides and let's kick it off. So slides should be coming up. Just checking, are the slides visible? It's always good to make sure.
Yes, they are perfectly visible.
Excellent. Yeah, so my name is Jānis Poģis. When I was a small kid, I thought, hey, it would be great to do something cool, travel the world. And I thought, hey, why don't I become a real man, a real truck driver to see the world? But luckily, I went to study business, study marketing, and saw the world through hobbies and building companies globally. So it was a fun twist in my initial thinking versus reality now. And over the last years, I spent a few years being marketing director and chief commercial officer of Tele2, working with two brands, Tele2 and Zelta Ziltiņa. I co-founded a drone company with my friends that turned out to be AirDog drones that follows you in action sports. With this company, it was sold about 5 years ago, but before it was sold, we nearly twice went bankrupt, or maybe 3 times. And maybe one of the highlights was that we got Best of CS award as the best drone of the year, beating Chinese American companies, which is kind of like a rare thing for anyone from this part of the world. After AirDog, I joined efforts with my friends in audio technology space with company SonarWorks, and again looking at some highlights and SonarWorks on about 6 years ago. Our company were put on a front cover on Pro Audio magazine, saying that the headphone revolution has arrived, and that's due to SonarWorks. So it's we are a company that works in a pro audio space as well as consumer audio space, and in a pro audio space, we really help recording studios globally get their sound perfect. And by now, more than 120,000 studios globally use our tech, and they are the ones that record pretty much all A-level stars in music and quite a few A-level games, movies. And our tech is also now available on some consumer products in headphone space or in the gaming space. So that's super quick overview on my background. And as for education, it's been business and marketing in Latvia and in States. So really, it was definitely a fun journey. It is still a fun journey. And now let's go to marketing, this gray area of what is this beast. And I like to start with this cartoon. So what Dilbert says about marketing. If we have maybe a quick look at this one. So obviously marketing is fraud when nothing else works. No lower price, no nothing. Here comes marketing. So that's of course misconception, but that's how marketing can be seen. Let's maybe start with definition. So if you look at marketing definition, in essence, it is organization function to create, communicate, and deliver value to customers, and thus make customer relationships and make organization and stakeholders happy. That's by Marketing Association, US Marketing Association. Another definition, bit different, is this one, that marketing consists of strategies and tactics to identify, create, and maintain relationships with customers that result in value both for customer and for marketer. I think we start to get the idea that it is about delivering value and make sure customer is happy and you are happy. And if you want to simplify things, sometimes it's good to simplify. In essence, marketing is about how can we make money by solving customer problem. Simple as that. And let's look how to think about this perspective. Let's start to unpack this. So I think first, question is, what is the problems that you are going to solve for your customers? And that, I think that's a question number one. And essentially, once you have figured out what problem are you solving and what will be the products, then you have to start to think, how will your customers get to know about that? That's awareness. Why they will want to consider your product, so as consideration. Why they will be considering actually paying for that, so kind of that's, you know, the intent. And actually how you will help them to do the purchase, because, you know, sometimes you want to buy something but you never do. So actually getting from intention to purchase is also quite a big thing. And eventually, once people pay for your product or service, whether they are using that and whether they are actually recommending that to their friends. So we will look at this kind of funnel thinking, funnel perspective. So if you have a solution for somebody's problem, how people get to know that and how eventually you make money from that and how you solve the actual problem. So that will be our thinking. How do we look at that? And before we start, and we start with the awareness part, I think it's let's start with the perspective kind of when you know what kind of problem you solve, kind of what is the product and how do you name it. And I'll take an kind of maybe example from our drone company. So the, and by the way, have any of you here heard of AirDog as a drone company, or it's a news? Okay, so you heard, so it's good. So in essence, like for any one of us here who is snowboarding or kite surfing or, you know, doing some trail running or trail mountain biking, you know that you know, these are incredible moments and incredible views, and you can take selfies, which are always great, and you can maybe ask your friend to film you, but it's not sustainable. Sometimes you go alone and there is actually no way how to film yourself in this beauty and in the action. So we actually from this insight came to the idea that let's build a drone that you can, you know, get up in the air and drone follows you and actually films you. So it's kind of your friends that is ensuring your best footage when you are alone, either snowboarding or even with your friends, kind of. So that's kind of for outdoor and action sports. And when we were thinking about the name, how to call this product, there are in general two areas. One area, the name can be explanatory, it's linked to solution you provide, or the name can be something totally different than solution, and there are of course all the ways in between. So for example, with AirDog, we went for relatively straightforward solution, kind of the dogs that follows you in the air, kind of that's AirDog. And similar other examples are sound ID solution we have for SonarWorks. It's about personalized sound that is unique for you. You know, now company called Bolt, it used to be called Taxify. It was starting with taxi service, very relevant name to understand the essence. Booking.com, hey, what can be more straightforward than that? And there are more examples on this side. And of course, there are also examples that are like when you mention them, you have no idea about that. If I would say, if you wouldn't know what is golden fish or Zelda Ziltinya, it could be anything. It can be a brand of zoo stores. It can be, you know, anything else. And in telecommunications, it was one of the telecommunications brand. Same also with Volt, Google, Yamaha, all the companies that are based on somebody's last name, like Anderson Consulting. Okay, consulting, you know, explains what they do, but still there are also other options, you know, that where you can land a name that is nothing close to the essence of product. Typically, it is a bit more expensive to create something unique to make sure people, you know, are aware of that and remember that. But eventually, companies like Google, if you invest lots of money, your name can become, you know, let's Google it. You know, it becomes actually action word for something that wasn't there like 10 years ago. So you can always be between these two areas. I would recommend, if you start from something new, would go something to that somewhat explains the essence, but you can also try crazy things, but then just make sure that maybe you need to invest a bit more. Next challenge. So you have a name you like. You think like, hey, AirDog, great name. Let's go for that. Is it unique? Let's look it up. Search trademarks. Is this name actually available? If it is available, bingo, you are super lucky. It typically is not the case. Typically, all the relevant names are taken one way or the other. If it's not taken, look at what category this name is taken. Is your category unique? Can you also have your names there? And if you can have also same name, different category, great, you can still go ahead with that. If no, can you buy the name? And if you cannot buy the name, maybe you just have to start from zero, go back and actually rename the product. We actually had this discussion regarding AirDog because when we googled up or looked up trademark for AirDog, there's a company in US that is selling engine pumps called AirDog, which means that the moment we launch our product in marketing states, we both will be paying more because it's the same brand name, so it just gets more expensive for you to have the same name. So this is homework you have to do, and of course, kind of when you have your name figured out and it's all good, then it's about actually building the place where you can explain your story. Select domain, for example, and you also have to figure out whether you will sell something online through your store or you want to have, for example, Shopify. If you, for example, take Shopify, the beauty is that it also allows you to register your domain through them. You can also build your website through them. It's a good option. You can also choose, Wix or other platforms. So, and the beauty is that Printful has done a good homework for us and for you. You can look at some of their recommendations, kind of what web services they recommend. And the beauty is that lately there are really good, Google articles and some companies who have done good job evaluating pros and cons of each platform. And in this case, Printful, our friends from other company here have done also a good job on recommendations. Once you start building your website, I think kind of rule of thumb is really try to explain as simply as possible what problem are you solving and why you are unique, because most probably there are more companies solving similar problems. And the moment where you think kind of this website is good, this mock-up, this storyline looks good, please show it to your friends. It can be your wife or your husband, but even better, your potential customers, just to check that they understand, because sometimes we are too deep and sometimes we miss simple things on a big scale. And once they say it's good, I think you are good. And key thing is afterwards, when you launch it, also look at the website metrics and do some tests. You can change the tagline. You can see how many people come or click through. You can really learn and experiment to make sure kind of you are the best you can be. Very quick intro on the first step. What do you need to do before you start building awareness? And of course, you have was probably some kind of product or product concept or prototype or something ready. So you are ready to go out and say, yep, we have your problem solved. So awareness, there are two ways how to build your awareness. It can be unpaid and can be paid. In general, unpaid is that if you manage to get media attention through PR or through media kind of news, it can be something done on social media that spreads. It can be cool content that people search and they find your site through search. It can be guerrilla marketing, doing viral stunts. It can be many things. Frankly, sometimes it's cheaper to buy things, buy ads and test ads. And you can buy online ads. You can pay for reviews. of course, you can also buy TV outdoor. If this is market specific, you can have like other options. But point here is that these things can be paid or unpaid, and maybe sometimes there are cases when paid things are cheaper than unpaid. Maybe it's a bit less effort and quicker path to actually seeing what works or what doesn't work. So if we go through some examples in this awareness area, so and again, these are just some examples from my experience, and your experience will be different and complementary in many cases. So for example, one thing we have seen with AirDocs that when we launched this drone and gadget wrote a review, and Engadget is pretty big tech media, we saw pretty amazing traffic, interest, and eventually sales of the product, which is kind of great things that if big media picks up your story. We also we did a kind of movie production ourselves to actually show the use case of drone, how drone can film you in kite surfing and different environments. And actually, if people like your content, you can get pretty good amount of views. So in this case, we had like 500,000 views on the product, and it was also kind of bringing some attention back to our website, our story. And same things also on SonarWorks when people write about how to take good care of your studio sound. There are 10 tips, and it happens that our technology is actually one of the tips, which is really nice thing to be. And similar is also on SonarWorks on our Sound ID app. Kind of if you happen to be one of the best products in the category, you kind of review on you creates overall good awareness and good traffic to your specific product. You can also do crazy viral stunts. With these stunts, you never know whether they will work, and you never know what scalable that these things will be. But if they work, they can be really big. It's definitely not easy. It's definitely something with high risk, high reward. So you can get half of your gray hair in this place, but you also can get pretty high awareness and media attention on this kind of things if they kind of happen as wide as possible. Yeah, and here's also example of paid ads. So with AirDog on one Christmas Eve, we kind of said that like Christmas greetings with Santa Claus windsurfing and being filmed, and we saw really good viral spread just for free, and we decided, hey, let's also add paid ad for this reel, because it's generating lots of attention in this specific sports community that is kind of community with good paying abilities, or very relevant for this product. So that's very high level and quick overview on the awareness part. What kind of things you can do to make sure people are aware of your solution. Let's go further. Second, the kind of why would people consider your product, versus other? And again, there are two things. First thing is, activities that you facilitate, but eventually they are done by, third party, like media reviews, online review, kind of influencer or expert pick, and things that you can do. Write emails, blog studies, newsletters, and we definitely see that when third party provides a good feedback on you, it's actually more credible. So kind of this this reviewer did a good review on AirDog. It was, again, we really see immediate attention, immediate traffic, eventually purchases. When we launched AirDog, before that we run Kickstarter campaign, and we were really fortunate to be picked by Kickstarter staff as the staff picks that actually the Kickstarter teams themselves loved the concept, the idea, and we were highlighted as a highlight from their side. So it definitely helped to get additional attention from anyone who is buying something or supporting anything on Kickstarter. At SonarWorks, we run a campaign with band Faith No More, and definitely, you know, making sure kind of these guys write a personal note to their fans about this campaign is definitely a big thing and very helpful thing. So it also really helps if kind of like the big names in the area you work kind of write good things about technologies you are building. And of course, when you also how to work directly with the people that are your either followers or you have their email addresses, and you also how to create a content that's relevant, that's adding value to them, and that's kind of convincing them to, hey, that SonarWorks is a good solution partner to look at. And you also how to measure and see kind of what thing people click on, what's actually relevant for them, so you can adjust on this one. And let's look forward. So in general, there is kind of people start to think good about your product, and so how do you start driving them towards decision to actually make a purchase? And here are several things. You know, you can have like marketing email campaigns or different emails follow each other in certain logic. You can provide free trials. You can target specific groups. And looking at these examples, like for our SonarWorks Pro product, definitely, you know, free trial is a big thing. People try it out, they see it really works, they kind of are ready to pay the money for the product. Build your email list and running email campaigns. The crazy thing is that you can always advertise on, you know, on Facebook, different social media channels, but all the media channels can change their pricing, can change their algorithms. So you are always to some level kind of, you cannot rely 100% on these platforms, because maybe someday, you know, they will just end, you know, and you will need to start from zero. So in this case, one of the most sustainable things you might have is the email addresses of people who are interested in your solution, who are relevant for you. And once you have these emails, you can actually start talking to them and send a chains of relevant emails and drive them to decide on your product purchase. And also kind of, if you do a kind of campaigns like this everything we did on this SoundCloud promotion, if you actually look at the comments, you actually clearly see signs that people have interest to buy. Like, for example, this person saying, hey, we need a drone for next trip. Is EDUC already available in Germany? So you can also, through this kind of marketing activities that are relevant for people in relevant communities, you can actually start to target these people in a moment and drive them towards decision. And yep, here comes the next part, the actually nearly most important part, to make sure that purchase or sale happens, because there are so many reasons why somebody cannot buy your product, although it's really good for them. So how to really take good care of this area. And here there's a good book by I think it was Robert Cialdini. It's called Influence. He learned from all the ways how he was influenced by somebody to buy something, and then he summarized all the learnings in a big book. And I'll maybe cover these 6 rules briefly. And you also how to make sure this purchase is easy, and you also how to make sure you drive this purchase. So, you know, looking at these 6 rules, you know, rule number 1 is scarcity. If there is some special offers that will end up soon, people are motivated to buy purchase now. If you look at Black Friday, for example, it's 4 days of crazy sales, and sometimes you get quarter worth of sales in 4 days. So it's something very special, very limited, that people really are driven to this decision to buy now, because that's a moment where the best offer is available. Second thing is, if you've been to to Venice, this is the worst thing that can happen to you. If you are there with your wife or girlfriend, somebody comes over and gives flower to your wife or girlfriend. It's kind of, nice surprise. But then again, he's like, hey, but buy this rose for $10. And since he is given this rose, so you can feel this human need for reciprocity that you need to buy. So these kind of things work also in other areas. If you provide for example, some nice gift to your business partner, it can eventually strengthen a relationship, and maybe partner will want to buy more from you. It's kind of, this rule works. I wouldn't say you have to use it often, but in general, this really works. And the way how to avoid it if you are in Venice is to say thank you. I know this is a well-working rule, but thanks. It's all good. Third rule is commitment and consistency. When you are talking to your customer, and sometimes you talk directly to your biggest customers, and then if you frame the questions that in general they say kind of, yes, if you do this, adjustment, or when you reach this milestone, we want to buy from you, there is some commitment already expressed even in light phrase, and afterwards people tend to be consistent. So when you reach this next level, or when you meet what your customer kind of inquired about, then it's very high chance that this person will keep his word, will actually continue the commitment. So it's actually, when you have sometimes direct conversations with your bigger customers, these are kind of things you can consider when you plan for the conversation. Yeah, and social proof, kind of, it's like 1 million people use this, or 80% of people who use it really love it. These kind of social proofs have really worked also for SonarWorks since early days, kind of when thousands of studios started using our tech, we started to use this metric in communication that really helped assure rest of people. And liking, it's maybe a weird one, but if you like this brand, if you like these people, if you like design, if you like the product, you actually tend to buy more, or you tend to buy it. And we run a research at Tele2 where we actually saw in metrics that brands out had the most liked ads at the time in Latvia, and we saw that there is correlation. The more people like the brand or the ad, actually, the more people buy it. So keynote here is like, don't be an asshole, be a nice person, and it works. So sometimes it's not easy, but it's really a good thing to try to strive for. Yeah, and rule number 6 is authority. When industry leader, industry expert says this product, this solution is good, it really works. And in our case, it was like Rafa Sardina. He's in music space. He has like 12 or even more Grammys by now. And when he said that, hey, this technology is a much needed standard for headphone space, it definitely added lots of power and strength to SonarWorks story. And it was already like years ago. So these are the 6 rules. And if you operate in online environment, one thing to take care of, make purchase as easy as possible. The best thing I saw was done by other competitor brand called LIAA that went bankrupt like about 10 years ago, but they had amazing website, 2 clicks and you buy a product. Super smooth, super nice. Really, when you look at purchase, make it as easy as light as possible. And for your biggest customers, just make sure you reach out, make sure you actually help people to do the purchase, help people to solve their problem, because there are so many reasons why somebody can, not buy eventually. So you have to really help drive, especially if that's a big deal. And this is kind of the purchase phase. Next one is loyalty. You really want to make sure you listen to your customers and see if they use your product, see if they are happy. And at SonarWorks, we had moments when things are great, when things are not great at all, and we work to get things great back again. And actually, through customers, you will learn that if there are some products, your best customers will tell you first, and you better address them fast, because if you don't address them, you lose your sales eventually. If you address them quick, your customers are happy, and you have solved their problem, and you have also ensured that next people will have good experience, next people will say good things about you. Yeah, and last thing but not least, here is advocacy. And in case of SonarWorks, when we interview our customers in Pro Studio space, we very often hear that our product was bought because it was recommended by a friend who had the product and really had great experience. So this is super important to make sure you monitor this your customer happiness. And there's a metric called Net Promoter Score. You can Google it up. It's a really cool metric how to see how many people are happy about your product versus how many people are unhappy. And you have to be, you should aim for having as many happy people as possible. Yeah, and in this case, if your customers, big name engineers, artists, or even just regular people recommend your product because they really like it, it's really, really big thing. It really helps you. And what is important? It's measure, measure, measure. You know, kind of once you know what problem you're solving, once you know what makes you unique, and you communicate that, make sure you learn. Make sure you learn. Kind of see kind of where is traffic coming from. Which sources is that coming from? PR? Is that coming from ads? Is that coming from inbound search? Really try to understand where do people learn about you, and why, kind of how they come to your website. And when they are on your website, you know, how many people download free trial, or how many people leave email address. Just you should see all these metrics. Essentially, key thing, of course, is, you know, how many people actually buy it. And once you have this reference, for example, you know, 1,000 people came in, you know, 100 people went for trial, you know, 20 people did the purchase. Great, you have benchmark, you have some traffic, trial, purchase figures, and then you can experiment on each level to actually see how to increase traffic, how to increase trials, how to increase kind of purchase, and you can really start making intelligent decisions of understanding actually what drives interest, what drives sales, because then the real marketing starts, and you can eventually make sure kind of things work out well for you. So that is a exactly 40 minutes summary on marketing thinking. And if there are 3 takeaways to just take home for you: first, know what kind of problem you are solving, know what makes you unique, where can you be sustainably unique, and third is actually test things and focus on things that really work. You know, try to really understand them. It's a magical process of learning and experimentation, but when you do things right, then it's really, really good. Yeah, next slide is 8 bonus slides. Should we run through them, or should we go to questions?
I think we can manage to do the bonus slides while some questions are being written in the chat. We already have 1 question, but let's wait for more. And meanwhile, you can do the bonus slides. Okay,
yeah, so let's do it this way. So some bonus slides, you know, some high level learnings from this journey of being in the startup space for a few years. I think that, you know, there are always things who say like, hey, you know, things in Latvia, man, it's not good, you know, look at the Estonia, look at the States, you know, it's not good. Actually, the thing is that you can build really cool things. You know, you can build companies and products that are the best in the world. It can be in sports, it can be in technologies, you know. Printful, guys, I mentioned earlier, they are like #1 in you know, creating unique products. You know, SonarWorks is a #1 global leader in Pro Studio space. Mikrotik, you know, very profitable, amazing companies that's doing in the mobile area. You can actually build cool things in Latvia. Is it easy? No, it's nothing close to easy. And please be ready for that. Sometimes it feels like Sparta. Well, literally, you don't die, you physically survive, but on a day where we sold AirDog, we were nearly bankrupt 2 or 3 times, and every single our competitor except DJI were done. GoPro came and went out. Lily went bankrupt. Yeah, I could mention like 5 drone companies that went bankrupt before AirDog got sold, kind of. So it's definitely a brutal, brutal market out there. And the way how you can succeed is actually to having great team. And that's a big thing, having a great team first and having great rules. How do you operate? At Tele2, when I was hired on the first day, I was a bit smiling about values. This values crap and bullshit, why would you care about that? But actually, when problems come in, when problems hit you, and they will always hit you, and sometimes they hit you really hard, you better have agreed on values. How do you address the problems? Are you open about them? Are you looking for quality or cheapest solution? Kind of you have to agree on the framework of values. How will you address these problems? So this is about this emotional part of things, but it's actually super valuable, because in the good times maybe it's not so important, but they're still important. But especially it's important on the tough times. And in startups. I think there was some quotes that in startups there are 2 emotions. It's like either, oh, we're gonna win, it's gonna be great, or oh man, we're gonna die, we're gonna die now. And it's typically 20%, oh, it's all good, and 80%, oh, we're gonna die now. So it's be ready for ups and downs. And that means if it's such a process, be ready. Screw ups, fuck ups, man, there are many of them, quite a few of them. So make sure what you do you really like, and it has to be some joy for you, because the moment you start, you go pedal for metal and you compete globally, because global market, that's the one where the most paying customers are. Latvia is amazing place to start, but eventually global market, be it like States or Europe, it's the market where you have to focus on. And last but not least, it's the most difficult thing when you build a startup is balance. There is kind of you can work your seriously your ass off like totally, but please remember sometimes to do something crazy and stupid and fun. And this is a picture from my schoolmate from Estonia. When I saw this on Facebook, I said, like, man, tell me a story. It has to be something really cool. And what these guys did, so they actually in Latvia, there's a thing called steeple gradients, or the run of the strong guys, where you run through difficult terrain, through mud, you are dirty but happy in zen. So what these guys essentially did is they went to this kind of competition, they dressed up in suits, and when they sneaked to the front row, can I pass? Can I pass? And then they were on the front row. When the start shot like went off, they run like for their lives. They run for maybe 300 meters, then they were done. They could stop for take a rest and then continue. But man, having this kind of adventure, having this kind of picture is definitely, maybe highlight of the year. So it's definitely when you go through some tough times, looking back at this picture is totally meaningful thing to have. So please make sure you also have fun, because you will really work a lot, or very, very a lot, but fun does matter, and look at that sometime as well. Yep, so that's it from my side, and best of luck, and hopefully things work really well for you. And once again, learning never ends, and really I wish you can really succeed in your ideas, dreams, and you can actually do pretty good things globally. So best of luck there. Yep, and now let's go to questions.
I see in the chat we already have 2, so
amazing. So question on trademarks. Are trademarks limited to specific regions? If so, if there is a company in Asia called XXX and you want to open XXX in Europe, are there any legal challenges? It depends how global you want to go. If you want to go really global, you look at all your key markets, including China. If you want to go global, sometimes it can be okay that, company XXX exists in China, for example, or in Asia, but you only focus on Europe. So it can be totally okay. You have to understand where you want to go for and look at this market, So this can be also, it can work out actually, but you can always, it requires some homework, and sometimes besides the homework, it requires talking to somebody who is actually expert in trademarks, and there are some people who are experts there. Question from Mars. What is your opinion on selling something to someone who is not actually in charge of approving the purchase? E.g., communicating with manager of company, but he has to convince his boss to approve the purchase. How would go about grooming the point of contact so that he can convince his own boss to buy something from you? This is actually a very typical situation. And this happens a lot, especially once you close big deals. For example, if you want to work with some of the top 10 or top 100 companies, these companies are really big, and sometimes the person who is driving the purchase process, he doesn't have the authority to buy. So there has to be some kind of approval from his manager or from a board or somewhere. And here are typically at least two things you can do. First is you have to make sure you find a champion in this company, somebody who really has a pain, and somebody for whom your solution addresses this pain. And these people are typically very enthusiastic about your product. And then once you have found this champion, then it's actually your task to help your champion to sell internally. And you should ask your champion, how can we help you? If we do a presentation or demo or give trial to your boss, would that help? If we go to your place and have a special demo session to your management team, would that help? And typically these champions, if they want your product, they want to get all the help needed, and they are actually providing good guidance on how this thing can happen. So that is one thing. Also, a second thing is when you talk to big companies, if you can manage, it's really good to approach this company from several points at the same time. For example, you start out in your champion, and suddenly through your advisors or your customers, you can also ping the CEO of a company or management of company. If suddenly on a multiple enterprise levels, people start to hear about your solution, your company, good words, things definitely work out much better. And this is exact B2B selling, which happens a lot if your product is in B2B space. And in this case, definitely navigating through champions, navigating through multiple layers of organization. You can even sometimes hire advisor, ex-employee of this company to really help to understand better how to navigate this company to actually really make sure things work well. And typically, if your solution is meaningful, people are happy to help because they see values, they see what will be the benefit you bring.
See that Jans also raised his hand and ready to ask a question live.
Yes. Hey, as I know, you're selling this sound product right now, and we are something similar. So my question would be, if you're going to some event, like I don't know, some startup event or some other one, how did you get interest from audition to try your product, or what's maybe some kind of tricks that you use to talk with those high-end guys, or how to get this attention for this product?
Very relevant and very good question. Maybe I'll give a bit of background story on SonarWorks' early days. So, SonarWorks' first product was a solution to measure speakers in a room and do digital sound correction to make sure the sound is perfect. And perfect means for recording studio, this balanced sound kind of where there are equal amount of bass, treble, and mids kind of. So it's really, really perfect for mixing. So this sound sounds well everywhere. And when Helmuts and Martins, co-founders of this company, were showing this product in Latvia, they heard like, maybe it works. I don't see a need for your product, so maybe it's not. Guys, don't waste your time on this one. It's bullshit. So that was kind of the first landing. So the best thing guys decided, they took a one-way ticket to Los Angeles, place where is a mecca of audio production, music, movies, so much things are happening in LA, and they took a one-way ticket to LA. And before leaving, they asked their friends on Facebook, do you know, by the way, anyone in audio area, mixing engineer or marketing engineer, please let us know. We'll be happy to meet and show our product and get a tech. And so it happens there was one recommendation by one of the friends who was violin player, and she recommended to meet an engineer in Los Angeles. And when Helmuts and Martins went to this engineer, it appears that he's actually guy who has worked with like Eric Clapton. He's like one of the big guys in the industry. So it's like lucky coincidence. When the guys showed what our technology can do, he was silent for a moment. And after the silence, he said, like, guys, you solved the problems that I was aware in my studio for years. You actually solved it. Thank you. And since he had these problems that Helmuts and Martins had solved the product, so he called his friends, hey, mate, come into my room. You have to see it. He called some of his friends, and actually through this, and within a few meetings, Helmuts and Martins' calendar was booked for next 2 weeks, with meetings, because people recommended to the next, because it was something meaningful brought in. And in this process, they learned that, the technology works, it's good. Obviously, there is something that we have managed to do well, but if we have to go to all, million studios globally, we cannot do it. We are too few. So we have to build the technologies that these people can use themselves, so we can scale it. So it was second breakthrough that technology works, we have to make it scalable. So that was kind of one thread. Second thread, Jan asked about the trade shows. So in early days, and nobody knew about SonarWorks, we were like a no-name company from somewhere. We went to trade show, and the good thing was that at the moment that we went to trade show, there was already one company from Latvia which was really good in audio space. These were JZ microphones, and they were producing microphones which are very expensive, and it's these were used by big studios to produce, record big artists. And so the guys agreed that that in this JZ microphone area, Helmuts and Martins will take 1 square meter area, and once JZ guys are done with their customers, Helmuts and Martins can pitch them. So this way, the guys ensured that kind of the guys who actually came to meeting to JZ were really good guys. They were like all the big name guys. I think they met Rafa Sardina earlier mentioned in this event. And when the person was done with JZ conversations, microphones, was about to leave, then Helmuts and Martins did the most American pitch. Man, you should hear it. It's the best thing, since Elvis. You should try it. Come and try it. please forget, Latvian shyness. You have to be as bold as American as possible, and actually through this they get even more people in the conversations, even more friends of these people, and things started spreading. And after a few of these rounds, so it happens that one of the people testing this technology was, editor of Sound on Sound, kind of the guy from the one of the top pro audio, and he without Sonarworks knowing put the Sonarworks technology on the front page of a magazine saying this technology is the next big thing in audio. So kind of it's actually very hard work that you can do, lots of footwork you have to do, but in trade shows, if you can kind of in a way piggyback on somebody else, it's great. If you cannot, just try to be in the closest area for relevant customers. Maybe it's close to some other products that these people would buy, and be as bold and shiny as possible. That's the trade shows are for. So hopefully things work out.
Can we get to your booth someday? When you're having a show?
If you are in audio space, let's discuss. Definitely. Kind of the cool thing is that in Latvia there are at least 4 cool audio companies. It's Jay-Z, Erika Sins, Plus Pedal, Game Changer Audio, and Sonarworks. So if you are joining this community, hey, we are trying to help each other as much as possible. Definitely ping me. So let's see how we can collaborate on this one.
I think we can still take the final Sabine's question that we have in the chat.
Yep, Sabine, on which part of the startup process you would suggest include marketing specialist only on the actual production and selling? It's a good one. As a founder of company, you always should wear your marketing hat, always, from day one, from the moment you incept your idea, and understand that you can solve this kind of problem. You should start validating with your potential customers. You have to start doing the homework to really make sure that the thing you do makes sense. When to outsource that to your marketing specialist. If you can afford, I would recommend to bring this person relatively early on to be fully on speed, and also to take part in some product validation process. But this very much depends on a finances and budget you have. Definitely, by the moment you are planning your product release, you plan to start building outreach. I think quarter or half year before, you should have somebody on a team full-time focusing on marketing. If it's not you, it has to be somebody else. And on the early days, founders take multiple hats. So passing this hat to somebody in marketing, I think it's I would say rule of thumb, half year to quarter before launch. That's the latest you should have somebody from marketing on board. Better earlier if you can afford. Hopefully that answers the question. But even when you have this marketing person, always once a while put this marketing hat on. Are we solving the right problem? Are we relevant and unique? And are we communicating in the best possible way? So kind of just take a look at that, because one thing people tend to underestimate, especially those who are really great minds technologically, they say that let's build great product, it will sell itself. No, it never has sold itself. You really have to go out, you have to go to meet these customers, you have to market, you have to really learn how to market. Things never get sold themselves. This is a big thing, you have to take care of selling, and selling is revenue, selling is your lifeline, and marketing just make sure this lifeline is happening. So that's a big answer.
Amazing. I want to thank you so much, Jans, for joining in today, for giving us this talk on marketing. And I believe that also I hope the audience enjoyed your talk just as much as I did. And really just thank you so much for joining in today.
No, thank you and best of luck. It's a great thing you're doing. Please succeed.
Thank you. And now, as Jan said, sometimes you have to wear the marketing hat yourself. And help do that, we are going to talk about pitching. And that's why I would like to welcome our next speaker of today, Egita Poljanska, the cyber program partner and managing director at Startup Wise Guys. Egita, are you here?
Yes, I am. I was also listening to Jan's presentation.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm going to give the floor over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was already listening the ending and the questions, and I hope that the presentation about the pitch will also be useful, because whenever you go to different conferences, of course, you are pitching and you are selling the product, but at the end of the day, you also have to pitch to investors, to general audience. And in short, you need to know how to explain the idea, how to explain the business, what you're doing in a very easy way. So my part on this session will be to help you prepare a pitch deck and pitch, so you can do and explain what you are doing in a, let's say, hopefully in a very simple and understandable way. And I also do have a presentation, and I will start with that. Yeah, well, the presentation is coming up. Couple of words also about me. Thank you, Paul. I see the thumbs up. A couple of words about me. Yeah, so I've been working with Startup Wise Guys for almost 7 years now, and I have seen a lot of startups. So yeah, currently I'm working mostly with cybersecurity programs and batches, but that said, I've also worked with a lot of other startups before that. But I think I've been working with startups for almost or even more than 10 years now. So I've seen a lot of different pitches, and then hopefully this kind of summary will also help you to build your own pitch deck. And I know that there will be a homework where you actually have to do it. So yes, so how to pitch. And I have okay, before we start, I also want to kind of let you know that I have structured this presentation in 3 parts to make it a little bit easier, maybe for you to kind of get the information. So we'll start about discussing what actually the pitch is, because I don't know if you have done already, do you already have a pitch? I assume that if some of you already have the startup idea or the business going on, so I'm sure you already have done the pitch. If not, we'll talk about it here, and then we will kind of dig a bit deeper. So what's inside the teddy bear, how I like to call it. So how, what actually is the structure, what kind of information you need to add, and then some tips and tricks that I've seen are kind of makes your life a little bit easier when you're preparing the pitch. So the pitch, well, in a very simple way, for those who don't know, but I'm sure you know, the pitch is a presentation about your startup. Why it's not called a presentation? Why it's not just any regular presentation? I guess the main difference is that pitch is a very, very short way how to present your startup, and usually you have a very limited time. So the standard time of a, let's say, classical startup investor or stage pitch is around 3 minutes. And yes, I know that this is something also that, for example, in the accelerator, we also are training the startups to do. And I know that, well, I assume that you are currently thinking that, oh God, 3 minutes, how do I have to, like, how? 3 minutes is not even enough to introduce myself. Well, it is actually quite a lot of time. And there are some tips and tricks and how to make it actually sound like a real presentation, and you manage to tell the most important parts. Why 3 minutes? I guess this is a standard time, because if it's, well, funny enough, it's enough to tell about the business, and also it gives you a very kind of, if you're going to different conferences, there are usually a lot of companies pitching, so it's just out of the logistics. I think it's also easier. If there's any other reason, maybe there is, but this is something that I have just I'm thinking that it's also, well, you're listening to someone for more than 3 minutes, it can be boring. And if you have like 10 startups in a row, well, you get the idea. But so kind of, again, I told that the pitch is the presentation about the startup, about your business idea. So you might think, okay, so in these 3 minutes, I have to tell everything that it's possible. So I need to like put a lot of information in these 3 minutes, but this is not. So if you're thinking that you have to put everything in there, it's very, let's say, it's not correct. And you might actually do a little bit more harm by trying to put more information in your pitch than good. Why is that? So the pitch in reality, as I said, it's short and catchy. And the main goal, why it's enough with 3 minutes, is you don't have to tell all the single detail about why your business idea is the best. You need to get the interest from the audience to schedule a follow-up meeting with you. You have to be interesting enough and let them actually, and even if it's an investor or you're on the stage. So basically the main goal of this short presentation is for whoever is in the audience to try to find you later on and try to say, hey, I heard you speaking there. Really cool idea. Can we talk more? Or with the investor as well. It's like, hey, sounds interesting. Can we talk more? I would love to know about this opportunity. This is it. And in that sense, I think this is also kind of explains why 3 minutes is enough, because it's a little bit like, consider it like a movie trailer. You don't have to actually see all the movie. You need to get interested in about the movie. And when you get people interested about your movie, that's when you kind of talk more about them. You tell more about what you're doing, what are your plans, and everything else. And yes, kind of the last part, remember that even though the pitch and the business usually is to investors, let's say in the sense that I'm talking about, it's not, let's say, but sometimes it's also a stage performance. So you need to be very aware how you are pitching, what are the slides, what is the what are the visuals that you put on the slides, because and how do you like dress yourself, how do you act? Not always. If you have a, let's say, a smaller meeting, you just need to be aware that so it looks professional. You don't have to make a show. But sometimes you also need to make a show. And I was listening also what Yanis said before, that sometimes the Latvians need to kind of get rid of their internal shyness and actually try to understand that, okay, this is we need to present and we need to be a little bit bolder than we might want to be. So we need to step out of the comfort zone as well. So this is kind of the quick introduction about the general idea of the pitch. So to set the right, let's say, the basics for you to start thinking about, okay, but what do I need to put inside the pitch so it actually makes sense for the other people? Before we move to that, I want to also say that it's very important before you build the pitch or before actually you go on the stage or on a meeting to present your company, you need to do a little homework, because that can make the real difference in when pitching as well. So you need to know your audience. So for example, if you're selling to a client, your pitch probably will be completely different. And if you're selling to someone else, the most, let's say for a startup, the regular 3-minute pitch is mostly intended for investor. And this is also for this presentation, I can also say that this is mostly for the investor and let's say general conference style pitch as well. That said, you can, of course, this is a good base for you to start building the story about your company, and you can also kind of add a little tips and kind of things into the presentation that you can relate to the audience as well. So yeah, so investors, clients, users, and they have different, I guess, interests in you as a company. So investors, of course, they want to know about the market opportunity, how, if they give you money, how can they get back this money? Clients most likely want to know what your product actually does, how it will make their life better. They might not even care if you're going to be big or not, but if I buy your product, is it going to actually solve the problem? There might also be partners. So for them, you also need to kind of shape the presentation, the message saying, okay, if you partner up, what are the benefits? And then there are a couple of other categories and audience, and especially this is true if you go on a stage in a conference or like a bigger event or online. You need to understand that there are some subgroups, and sometimes you're pitching to everyone. And sometimes your pitch reaches certain people that might not be your direct target audience, but they, for example, might become your future employees. At the startup, I think you always are, if you're growing, you always need more people. So remember, even if you're not pitching directly for investors, for clients, for everyone else, actually you're pitching for your company. You're you're creating a brand name for yourself, you're presenting it. And sometimes, of course, the jury as well. If you go to a pitch competition, this is actually a really good way how to attach little things to the presentation. If you do the research on the jury, who's there, are they investors? Are they maybe potential clients? Do they, maybe they are interested in the type of companies that you are doing. So you can use all this information in your advantage, adding a little comment here and there to relate to them. And anyone else. So there can be different things and different people, but this is, you never know. Of course, there are events like a big conference where you never know who is in the audience. So you kind of have to go with kind of everything. But when you are pitching to a smaller group, this is the most basic homework that you need to do. You need to research to whom you are pitching to actually make a good presentation. And at the end of the day, remember that you need to know people, and you need to also understand that you're pitching to human beings. The attention span, memory span is quite limited. So again, if you try to put too much information in a pitch, people will just get tired, and you might reach the opposite effect of, let me tell you everything about the company, and they will be like, oh, that person, like I can't even remember what they're telling about. Is like too much of everything. Less is more here again. Sometimes, especially if you are talking, like if you're presenting, the slides on the background are just to add to your presentation, not distract people from what you're saying. So your voice and your story is the most important one. So less numbers, less text when you think about the slides. And big abstract numbers also don't resonate with people, because if you tell them something is really, really bad somewhere else in the world, they might not be that interested. Think about how you can relate to them. And again, people are people. So this is when you're building a pitch, when you're developing a stage performance, remember, you might kind of expect what the people will do when you're pitching, but you might not know for like 100%. So when you're building a pitch deck, you need to sort of be ready for different results. So this is the kind of the big part. So kind of like summarizing everything that I said about what is the pitch, why you need to take care about, like why you need to take care about the homework and research the audience is, and then it's like how to fit that into the 3 minutes is yes. So this is where you start prioritizing, and you need to actually understand what is the most important information for you and for your startup. That is your kind of strengths. Going into the, as a next part, so I want to go also, this will be a little bit more technical. I hope this will also help you to build the pitch deck, because this is actually what, so kind of analyzing what exactly startups are usually adding into the 3-minute pitch. So here are the sort of 9 things that are usually in the pitch. That said, I would say consider this. This is not like a template that you take and you implement like in the same order as you see it on the slide. This is sort of a classical order for the pitch. You start with a problem, customer, solution, competition, market, and everything else. Here, I would say from my experience, here is your chance to actually make it personal. Consider this is more like Lego blocks. You know, you have like Lego pieces, and you can build something. You can build something that it's a standard thing that it's written, or you can try to shape it around and build something unique. So I would say this is, please approach it here. And you can also mix the order. Again, as everything, it can work, it might not work, but I would say at least you need to try. And sometimes you, of course, you don't have to include all the 9 things, for example, in the pitch deck. If something doesn't really make sense, you can leave it out. But I guess kind of in a nutshell, you still have to focus on explaining the problem. Then you have to introduce your solution, and then you have to sort of create some sort of an action with your pitch deck. Whatever is the action depends on the audience, depends on the goal, what you're trying to achieve. Is it selling? Is it fundraising? Or sometimes it's even like just, I don't know, introductions or brand recognition as well. So kind of keeping this in mind, I guess these are the important things that has to be in every pitch deck. This, you can choose whatever fits the most. Yeah, so coming back, so the first thing you saw, there's like a hook and a problem. So what is actually the hook? So hook is, well, hook is a hook. So pretty much that it is what it is. And what you need to be aware is that any audience, especially if you're pitching to a bigger audience, you have approximately 15 seconds when you come on the stage to get attention of people. If you lose them in the first 15 seconds, you might not get them back. If it's a conference, they might go and look at their phones. They might start texting a friend. They might go, I don't know, read something somewhere. They might start talking to a friend or someone sitting next to them, or, you know, at the end of the day, that's why I said, like, people are people. Sometimes they will just start thinking about something else. So you have 15 seconds. And this is kind of the first thing that you need to start, how to hook them. So even if you lose you lose them later or at some point, you kind of give them this information that at least they try to listen to you. And the hook, this is very personal. So this is also why you need to kind of understand the audience. And there are several ways how you can approach it. So the first way is, especially if you're pitching among other startups, you can surprise them. Whatever is the topic, you can start with either a question or stating some sort of fact or unexpected fact or controversial statement. Or you might also ask a question. Here, the trick is never wait for the response, because that might sort of screw up your pitch if you didn't receive the answer that you were expecting. But at least you can make people think about it. Like controversial statements can also, I don't know, if the banking industry is not working. And of course, then you will have to explain why you're saying certain things, but at least you kind of get this, you have this reaction in people's minds. It's like, oh, something interesting, even if they don't agree, especially if they don't agree with it, or that's something that they didn't expect, because they usually expect that startups are starting the pitch with a story like, this is not working and this is this is the problem. You can do this by saying something completely opposite. My favorite hook is relate with the audience on a personal level. You can tell your own story. And I believe if you're thinking about your business idea, about your startup idea, there must be a reason why you're actually doing it. Did you experience something that made you kind of come up with this idea? You found a problem, you were working on it. Or you can also just empathize with people because they are humans. And if it's something more on a bigger level, you can try to get some emotions out of them, telling like a story that brings emotions. Is it joy? Is it sadness? Is it happiness? Is it something else? I don't know, maybe anger, whatever the thing is. Or the third one also, it's you can just entertain them, like tell some other story with an example about someone, so what happened. You can start with a joke, but then here is the thing, that start with a joke only if you feel comfortable about it, if you are ready that people might not laugh, and then, but okay, and if you don't have to, if you don't feel like any of this is you don't have to do it again, because I think this is a good way how to stand out, but at the end of the day, you have to, the most important part is your confidence on the stage. So if you are saying something else and you are feeling more confident like that, do that. But I would still say the personal level story, it's always something that everyone appreciates. And it's also something that differentiates you from other people because it's your story. Once you have hooked the audience, you probably want to move into the problem and solution. Here can be different things. So, but I would say the main suggestion when you start thinking about it is instead of going into a very general and global problem, try to start with the focus on the user and the client, because you are solving a problem for someone or for organization or for a person, but it's a certain something or someone that has characteristics, that has like, I don't know, processes that they follow every day, and you somehow saw a problem in those processes. Explain that. And then when you go to the solution part, it will be so much easier, because when you explain the problem specifically enough, you can also explain the solution in a way that basically, how are you making the lives of your customers better? Here, the good suggestion is, again, be specific. Again, numbers and emotions work. Still remember the less is more. So if you choose some numbers, try to have like one big number, why this is a problem. You can focus on the lost resources, lost opportunities, I don't know, lost money. You can also focus on different gains when you introduce the solution, or you can also focus on lost opportunities. I don't know. This is something that I know that I'm not sure what exactly all of your business ideas are. So, but think about it that way. Focus on your user and client, and then try to state the problem. Question that I really want you to ask yourself when you're building this, again, try to be specific, and you can try to ask, does your solution actually solve the indicated problem? Because sometimes when you put it on the slides, you see that the solution is something else, and then startups usually try to build this huge problem that it's for someone, somewhere, and it doesn't really match. So be very realistic, and this kind of the logic and explanation of the problem and solution is valued much more in the audience and then also at the investors than trying to paint like this big picture with abstract things and abstract problems. Better to be specific. And then kind of going a bit deeper into the slide. So you have explained, you have hooked the audience, you have explained the problem, the solution, what is the, for the investors, what is the most, after this, most important thing that they want to know is business model. What is business model? In reality is quite simple. You need to answer the question, where is the money coming from? Who is paying you? How much they are paying you? And again, you don't have to go into much details here, but basically there can be several options where the money could be coming from. So just to give you an idea, for example, if you're a software as a service company, you most likely have subscription plans with different levels of pricing. So you just need to tell that we are a SaaS company charging a subscription. Maybe you are a marketplace or a platform where you take a fee for from every transaction, or maybe it's project-based pricing. If you're selling to big companies and it's like big agreements, so it's also fine. Or maybe there is like onboarding fee, freemium, and again, well, I will not go deeper here. I don't know if you have anything regarding the business models during the course, but I think that's a little bit different topic about what exactly you are. But basically, for the simplicity of the pitch, whatever your business model is, here you don't have to go into details. You just have to tell where the money is coming from and who's paying you. Once you have explained that, important part that almost everyone wants to know is, let's assume that you have explained nicely your product. Everyone is excited. So the next, and you know that, oh, the money is also coming from somewhere. Awesome. The next thing that everyone usually wants to know, okay, is this just an idea, or you have already gotten somewhere further with it? So this is why you need to sort of paint the picture of what's the current status on the stage of your company and what are you planning to do next. Here, there are different things. So usually you can put it either just an information saying, okay, we have already, I don't know, 5 customers. we're planning to sell next. Here you can also say, you can put like a roadmap saying, you know, we have built and we started working on the idea. 3 months later, we built the minimum viable product. 6 months later, we got our first customer, and now we're selling. Different things. So you can kind of build this kind of visual format or the roadmap or something else based on your financials, if you have something. So that's usually the traction, number of clients, maybe you have already revenue, which is wonderful. If you don't, that's also fine. Everyone starts somewhere. Sometimes you also want to mention if you're selling to different countries, you might want to mention in which countries your product is available, where your clients are. And then if, for example, none of those, like you're still starting, you still have, even though if you're not selling to the customers, you probably still have gone through a certain process. You maybe are building this, maybe you're going through different programs, which is fine. You just put that on the slide as well and say, currently we are building our first version of the product. We have been talking to different customers, and now we are planning to implement it in, I don't know, first half of the 2023. And of course, sometimes you also want to do, if you're already a bit later stage, you also want to mention the fundraising. So for example, that you want to start fundraise in the next year for to achieve something more. But yeah, it's again, the key here is not to overcomplicate things, because even though something like all these slides are like, maybe you start thinking it's like, oh, there's a lot of information that I need to include, but the key is yes, but when you actually think about it, try to simplify as much as possible, because at the end of the day, it's like you solve a problem, someone is hopefully paying for you for that, and someone is already like either paying now or is going to pay you in a couple of hopefully months. Yeah, and then the next very important thing that I would like, and a very important slide that I also want to emphasize, is put the team slide, especially if you have if you're an early stage company, and most likely, like when we talk about this status and what's next, you might not have the financials, you're still building the product. So this is your most important slide, because here you have to tell about why exactly you can do what you're promising to do. You don't have to spend too much time here as well, because again, remember 3 minutes, there's not that much time. But here the important thing is to show that you have the best team, and to show that it's very hard to show it on the slide. So on the slide, usually we suggest that you need to show with the visuals. So instead of like you have, you know, those slides where it's like just around things or squares with the people faces, and then there's something, a lot of things written beneath it, I would say always try to, maybe you can have a team picture where all of you are together. So it shows maybe something a bit interesting. Maybe you're in your office, maybe you're somewhere outside, maybe you just have something, your company t-shirts on, but it's something that will definitely, people will remember it. And then when you tell about your team, instead of saying that, oh, my co-founder worked for 5 years here, then 10 years here, and I worked here and then here, and now we're doing a startup, rather focus on the experiences. So for example, what have you done together? You can say, oh, we have already built the startup together, or we have failed maybe the startup together. Oh, we were working in another company for a long time together. We decided that we want to do something new. So again, it's about your complementary skills and experience, not specifically maybe what kind of jobs you have done. Again, it will be different for everyone, but stay a little bit human. This is your chance to actually show how you are different, because I would say that problems and solutions are not that unique in the startup ecosystem. There are so many startups, so many problems, so many solutions, that it's very hard to say that, oh, we're building something super innovative. But this as a team, this is you as human beings, you are definitely different, and this is where you can shine and show how different you are. And as an example, yeah, this is our Startup Wise Guys team. So this is us. So there's, you can see, of course, our branded outfits, but it's also just us being together, weird faces. that's kind of sort of characterize us. And I would say that's much better than like, you know, those squares put in the row where no one can see your face anyways. And almost the end. So you have showed also the team, then is the ask, which is I think also one of the most important slide, because a lot of startups actually don't use it properly, because the ask is the last part where you actually ask for someone's help. And what startups think, from my experience, I know that everyone usually thinks that the only ask that you can ask is the money. Yes, you can. And if you need the money, you should ask the money. But there are so many other things that you can ask for. And if you're not fundraising and then you think you don't have to include the slide, you're losing a lot of opportunity to actually get something out of any pitching and presentation you have. So the ask also can be, of course, the funding is the first one, but then if you can also ask for different connections, different introductions, maybe you need to reach clients, maybe you need to reach partners, or maybe you just want to talk to someone who could be a mentor. You can ask also for feedback. If you're pitching, you can always say, we're not fundraising, we are doing great, but we would love to know your feedback about what we're doing. Do you think it's going to work? It's not going to work. Talent, again, you can, if you are already working on the business and most likely you will need to start scaling, you can always ask if we're looking for technical talent, we're looking for designers, we're looking for marketing experts, anything. And also just simply advice. It can be maybe, you can ask, okay, we need someone who can help us, like here, we need someone who can help us with marketing. We need someone who can help us with the pitching. We need someone who can help us with the business model. If you know someone or you're that person, come talk to me. Again, but just remember, ask something, because people usually like to help other people, but sometimes they just don't know how. And if you're not asking, they might be, you know, the Latvians are shy. They will never go and tell you like, hey, I think I can help you. No, they will sit in their corner and they will think, I think I can help you, but that startup probably doesn't even need my help. But if you ask, you most likely will get a lot of responses as well. To summarize it, I know this probably seems a lot to kind of, if you haven't started building your pitch deck, that's completely fine. Again, use this as like a template where you can build the story. And I actually suggest before you start building a slide deck, start first with building the storyline. So you can even write it down, because again, the slide deck that you're going to present is just to emphasize what you're saying. Couple of other tips and tricks, so kind of reminder as well that don't put too much information into the 3-minute slide deck, because people will not remember this anyway. It will be too much and you will have the opposite effect. So you just need to get like spark this interest for them to come to you afterwards and ask for a conversation. Don't forget to do your homework and check the audience and kind of the goal of the presentation as much as possible. And even though you can have like this base of the slide deck and the story, you can add a little bit different information, either at the hook where you kind of tell the story, or maybe something about the market, or at the end, at the team. You can just slightly adjust some of the things so you can relate a little bit more to the audience. And if you can relate to them, they will definitely remember you better. And again, another important thing is like when you build your presentation and you want to, probably you want to like, okay, investors want me to put big numbers. They want to get a lot of money out of it. So I will put that I have billions and trillions of market, and I will be huge company. I will be the future unicorn. This is wonderful. But what is actually mostly appreciated by the investors is because everyone can put that the market is huge. And for most of the companies, it is. But what they are looking for is actually how the logic behind the numbers in your approach, because it's easy to put the number that there is $1 billion market or €1 billion euro market, but you need to prove with your pitch that you are the team, that you have actually made the research and you know how to achieve it. Because every big goal that you need to achieve, you just cannot like jump it. It's like you have to go like through the certain steps, and if you show that you have done the research and you know what kind of steps you need to take to achieve the big goal, this will definitely be really good. And the investors and everyone appreciate it even more because they will trust you. They were like, okay, I see this person has done the research, makes sense, must be true, must be smart, they must be smart. Why I should probably, let's say, invest or at least consider investing. Yes, write the pitch script. Another suggestion, kind of what I said, like start with the pitch script, and I really suggest this. Even though I know that there are several types of people, someone who really wants to kind of remember the pitch script and they need to write it, you will probably understand this. Then probably there are people who are more happy to improvise and they don't like the pitch scripts. I would still suggest you to at least write it once, because there are a couple of things. So first, you will just understand what are the information what information you're including. And sometimes you might already notice that you are repeating some information. So basically it will help you to clear out the content, to make the storyline clean and simple. Plus you can also time yourselves. If you write this story and you can then read it slowly, you will understand, do you actually fit into 3 minutes or not? And then, yeah, sometimes it's just easier to also have some sort of a structure, because I have also seen startups who like to improvise, but then with every pitch they improvise so much that sometimes they over improvise, and at the end of the day it's not helping you also to kind of make this pitching process easier. And another tip, if you're building the slide decks and presentations for your pitch, remember that there are 2 different pitch decks or slide decks. And for sure, as you have probably already noticed, that as I said, that if you're pitching in person or on Zoom, but basically there in a pitch where there is you as a person telling the story, your slide deck is mostly visual. You should be able to pitch your company without the slides. And whenever you have the slides on the background, they're just there to emphasize the message. And then for the sending into the emails, for example, once you get this follow-on in meeting, you can prepare slide deck with much more information, with a lot of text. Of course, they have to be pretty, but then you can also do more detailed kind of descriptions, because there is not going to be someone like you, for example, explaining the slides. A good tip actually is for startups. Sometimes, especially now, I think during the last years, there is a lot of startups are also recording themselves. So for example, I don't think it can be replaced. It's not replacing the regular sending deck, but what you can do as an additional information, you can record yourself, I don't know, on Zoom, Loom, different platforms, how you are pitching with the visual slides in these 3 minutes, and you can always also add it to the email, for example, if you want to send it to someone. Because again, showing yourself, and just like making kind of, if people can listen to you, your voice, see how you are talking, so much better than just receiving a slide deck. So use the opportunity and kind of just be aware of all these things, how you can enhance the pitch. And again, so there's I know a lot of people are more comfortable on the stage. Some of you are not that comfortable, and that's fine. And then probably a lot of you have already pitched, and maybe there's someone who hasn't pitched at all, or doesn't even like the presentation. That's fine, because practice definitely, sometimes it will not make you perfect. And I don't think you have to be perfect in pitching, because otherwise then everything will be the same. But practice definitely makes progress. And remember that the more you practice the pitching, the better it will be. And that's it. And I know that there is something in the chat, so I hope there's some questions.
There are a couple of questions. I think 1 comment and 2 questions currently. Should I read them to you?
If you want, yes, so we can make it this interactive.
Okay, then I'm going to add myself to the spotlight. Pitches, as you mentioned, vary for different audiences: investor pitch, client pitch, user, and etc. And it is not cool to send the one you made for investors to users. So as of this, what is the best way to create an ideal pitch deck for every early stage startup that you can share with everyone? Creating multiple of them is time consuming.
Good question. I'm not sure I will have the answer that you're looking for. I think as an early stage startup, you have to have several pitch decks, but I guess I can help you with saying that you don't have to create a pitch deck for every audience. I think at least you need to have two types of pitch decks. One is for your users and clients, just because you are selling to them, and it's not even like it's like a sales deck. It's very specific because you're focusing on their pains and they don't really care if you're going to be a big company or not. They care about if you are going to solve the problem. So this would be the one pitch deck. The other pitch deck is the investor or general audience. So this is what I talked about today. So if you have this pitch deck, and you can, I would even say you can create it a little bit longer. So you can create one version like for pitching, and then you can add a little bit like the next slide with more information. So in that sense, you can sort of have this template with a bit more slides. And whenever you kind of need to choose this situation, is it a stage pitch or not, or a smaller, you can a little bit mix and match. That said, you still need to create the story. Yeah, so I guess the very minimum is two types of pitch decks, sales and investor. But then also I would say try to distinguish between the one that you present with less text and the one that you are sending in the email without the voiceover, that's with more text. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Not really a question, but Mars created a suggestion that you should guilt trip the audience for usually losing their attention in the first 15 seconds, so they don't lose attention. I'll feel bad if they do. Have you ever seen that happen?
I think I have, but maybe a very long time ago. This can also backfire depending on your audience. If you know that they're kind of aware of it, you can do it. But sometimes the people, if the people can become also very grumpy, they're like, why is he telling me to do something? If the answer is like, be more interesting. But yes and no, it's a good thing. If you can pull it off, why not?
Okay. Question from Yanis. Is it okay to not show exact prices in business model slide?
Yeah, it's fine. The most important part is to explain how people or companies are paying you. Because especially in the early stage startup, sometimes the prices are changing. So if you don't have them, you don't have to put them. But for example, if it's just a subscription model and you can say we have, 3 plans, or we have 3 different type of pricing, good enough.
I will elaborate a bit on this one. But is it okay if we have a sales and product as a service, like 2 business models at the same time? Is it okay?
Yeah. Yeah, the short answer is yes. I think in that sense, you can also mention it that you have basically, those are 2 income streams.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so you can basically clearly say, okay, we are charging, customers for this subscription, and also we're charging them for, usually there's, I probably would need to know more, but there's like setup fee and subscription, or there is something else and subscription, or even not the subscription. But yeah, it's completely okay.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Eva. For investor pitches, what level of detail is needed for early stage startups looking for funding for the first time?
In the pitch, well, I guess this is a good question. I'm trying to understand where exactly the level of detail.
Like go-to-market strategy, valuation, nani, all that other stuff you hear about.
Yeah, thank you so much for, because this could go in so many different directions. Thank you for clarifying. I think you have to focus on the detail is needed if you need to prove that there is a problem, and you need to also prove to the investor that the problem is big enough. Especially if you don't, if it's an early stage startup, you don't have already someone paying, but you need to make sure that there is a big market, let's say still decent enough market. You have done the research, on the problem. So for example, the detail here, you can say, oh, we have done several surveys, or we have talked to the potential customers, and 70% of them said that we are going to buy you once you have a product. Okay, this is also tricky, but you basically have to have this proof that it's not something that you are just assuming, but you have done certain steps to ensure that the problem is real. Regarding the valuation and the numbers like that, and for example, also like the pricing, you don't have to include that. You don't also have to have very detailed financial plans of what will be your revenue in 5 years, for sure not. I would say focus then on the upcoming 6 or 12 months. What is the most important for you to achieve with this funding? Is it finishing the product, making the first sales, and value? So even if you're asking for funding, I would suggest you to do the following. So you have seen the ask slide. Sometimes startups put, we're looking for, I don't know, 300,000 euros, and we will spend 60% in the product development, 30% in the marketing and sales, and 10% in something else in ads. I would suggest, instead of explaining how you will kind of use this money, I would suggest rather say what you are going to do with it and what you're going to achieve. So for example, not saying where you're going to spend it, you say, okay, if you are, we're looking for 300,000 investment to finish our product, minimum viable product, make the first 2 tests with our customers, and then let's say in 6 months, we would like to launch the commercial version. So that's much better for the investors, because it also shows the sort of the logic that you have. You're not just planning to spend the money, but you know what for. So you have sort of KPIs and milestones that you want to achieve.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't see any more questions currently. Are there any more? Oh, well, there is the one I think you mean by Jans, right?
Yeah, the pitch deck template, but I think you have the answer.
I have the answer. I specifically left it out as it's a perfect segue into the homework. But yeah, do we have any other questions from the audience, maybe?
I have one more, sorry. It's the first time that I've actually heard of including a Zoom or Loom as an attachment with the email to investors. Are they actually like welcoming towards that, or is it overkill, or is it depend on the person? Does that typically work if you've never met them before, or if you've met them once before as a reminder? Would you recommend doing that every time?
This is, I guess, the answer is it depends. It's very tricky. And again, so for example, why I'm suggesting this, and this is actually something that the startups, we are suggesting also to do for our accelerator batch startups. So sort of they create so-called like a data room, where it's not only the pitch deck, but let's say this is something that when you are fundraising, you prepare sort of a folder with all the information. It's the pitch deck. It's the pitch deck where it's for sending. You also probably have some financial projections, which you, of course, don't put on the slides, but you have them. You might need some traction numbers. And recently, especially during when the COVID years, there was not a chance to meet in person. It was so much easier to kind of add this as an option. Not all the investors will look at it, and not all of them will look through all the slide deck. But then if you keep it, of course, if you also do like a 5-minute presentation, no one will do it. I think if you keep it up to 3 minutes, there might be people who might look at it. And I personally, I feel like when we were, so previously we have, when we were looking for applications from the startups to the acceleration program, we always asked them to include a short video pitch. Sometimes we always try to ask the Zoom call. So this is why I'm thinking that's a nice way to add it. There's no guarantee that someone will use it, but from my experience and just also talking to some other investors, they might. Because this brings, otherwise, you're looking as you're receiving a lot of pitch decks and it's only the text and you don't even know how the person sounds like or looks like who is doing this pitch. So
should you show your face then? Are you recommending that to kind of personalize it?
I would say it's a nice thing. You don't have to put like, in Zoom and Loom, you have like this small box in the corner. I think that's enough, but I think, yeah, if you can do it. Of course, you might not need to do it right now, but I just wanted to put it as an option, because if you do it in a nice way, sometimes it's a really nice addition and it might work. Not always, but then at the end of the day, even Pitchdeck doesn't work always. So it's the tough life of a startup. Everything depends.
Okay, I guess then, Egit, do you want to give the assignment to the participants, or should I do that?
Do it. Do it.
Okay, so as me and Egit already discussed, that there was this one question in the chat by Jans, do you have a link to some pitch deck template? And the good thing is Egit has prepared a pitch deck template, and maybe I would say an even better thing is that you will have to spend the next week preparing your very first draft of a pitch deck based on what Egit just talked about during this lecture. So yeah, I will share, your homework is going to be to create this draft of the pitch deck, and I will share the template tomorrow morning on Slack. So Egit, any parting words with the...
Maybe I was just thinking it's probably not really a template what everyone expects it to be, because it's very, very blank template. But I think Pulse, you also have all this additional information with some videos and inspirational. So I think I would suggest how to approach it is, before you actually start making the slides, think about your story, watch some videos that I have included, search on Google different startup videos just to get some inspiration. And then again, first think about the story and only then do the pitch deck. I think it will be much easier. That's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Egit. Thank you for sharing the knowledge regarding the pitch deck and sharing the pitch deck template. And this isn't the last time you're going to be seeing Egit. She is also going to be holding a pitch workshop on the 5th of October before the pitch competition at the end of this program. So thank you, Egit, for this evening, but we will see you once again in a couple of weeks. And of course, thanks to everyone who participated here this evening, or who will be watching the recording later on. And I just wanted to remind you that this Wednesday we are having the program progress check-in call at 6 o'clock as per usual, and I will want to hear from each team about your how are you doing in this program, maybe some feedback, and I will prepare some questions I would love for you to answer during this program progress check-in call. And regarding the pitch deck, you will have to prepare it by next Monday, 5 o'clock next Monday. But of course, on Slack, in the homework channel, I will write all the information regarding that. I will also add some links to the examples I mentioned, and of course, the template itself. And and as always, you will be able to find the recording of this session in the resources channel on Slack. So probably what Egit talked about, it's very valuable, and when you'll be putting together your own pitch deck, you might want to watch this this session once again. So thank you all for joining in today. Thank you, Egit. Thank you, Anis, and see you this Wednesday in 2 days. Have a great rest of the evening. Bye.